Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm here with brother Jibreel Romaani. How are you, akhi?
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So, Ustadh Jibreel, interesting story. I actually came across you a number of years ago through your YouTube channel. Interestingly enough, Ustadh Jibreel was one of the first Muslim YouTubers with his YouTube channel called Islam Dunk. And the way I came across it was I was looking at responses from Muslims themselves to these attacks and accusations by missionaries, atheists, Islamophobes, modernists, and people who are just, generally attacking Islam. And so I wanted to actually introduce our audience to brother Ustadh Jibreel through that. But I wanted Ustadh Jibreel, if you can give us like the 30-second introduction of yourself as to who you are, what's your affiliation to Canada, the quick, 1-minute introduction as to how you came into Islam. And if you're able to do that in 1 minute, that is amazing.
I'll try my best, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Salatu wasalam. So my name is Gabriel, born and raised in Romania, moved to Canada, started high school in Canada, graduated from biology and psychology, neuroscience and cognition, and then later on education, and later on from Sharia. Alhamdulillah. I became Muslim 2003. Dawah from a friend of mine, a high school friend, very good friend, that I was trying to corrupt, and alhamdulillah, he ended up guiding me by the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Alhamdulillah.
And I started a radio show at the university, first year university, and it was called Islam Dunk, and that's where the name came. And started doing the YouTube videos. Because I was forced to, actually. It was all my ex-friends or ex-Christian friends and whatever people from the past attacking me with regards to why I made the decision according to Islam. And of course, I was trying to look for explanations online. I found more venom and more problems online. So I said, you know what? I swore to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I made a promise that I will actually spend my life trying to defend this Deen. That's basically how it all started.
That is amazing. Well, alhamdulillah. And you're actually from T dot or TO or what do they say now? Toronto, right?
No, I'm actually Windsorian.
Windsor. Oh man, I'm sorry, bro. I apologize for affiliating you with Toronto.
No, it's okay.
You're lucky, actually. You're lucky, actually. I'm just joking. You didn't get all the vices, unfortunately. But you're still a Raptors and Leafs fan, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. don't even. If you ask me if I know what's going on, I don't even know what's going on in sports. But honestly, on a serious topic now, Ustadh Jibreel, where you've traveled to different regions of the world. I think you've been to the UK, Australia, different English-speaking parts of the world. Right now, you're in France, mashallah. Are Muslims in Canada behind in Islamic knowledge? I'm not trying to put down Muslims in Canada. I think we're amazing. We have strengths. Every community has its strengths and areas of improvement. But where do you think Muslims in Canada are in their Islamic knowledge? And the follow-up question is, how do you think Muslims in Canada would start to seek Islamic knowledge?
Yeah, alhamdulillah, I was blessed to travel to more than 30 countries. Alhamdulillah, dealing with different communities, Muslim communities. I wouldn't say that Muslims in Canada are behind. I think most of the communities around the world are facing the same issue. A lot of the people who want to study Islam, they're still stuck on going to Medina University. That's their dream, right? So a lot of them are just in limbo, waiting for that dream to just kind of take place, but it might never happen. Mm-hmm. So if you ever talk to any young person who got serious about Islam in Canada, and they're like, so what do you want to do? I want to go to Medina University and stuff for life. This is Medina. This is the we love it, and so I'm not putting that down. All I'm saying that is a lot of the Muslims in Canada and other communities are kind of waiting for this amazing dream of them going overseas to study, be it Medina or Egypt or wherever, and sadly they never do it. So there's so many other options right now in the 21st century with media and technology and so on that, alhamdulillah, myself, I'm an example of that, and many others who said, I tried to go to Medina and I couldn't get in for whatever reason, but it didn't stop me. So alhamdulillah, now I graduated with a bachelor's in Islamic studies, and then I was able to also traditionally study with different mashayikh. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open up the way, but people need to get moving. They need to get serious about studying a curriculum, not just some YouTube videos here or some lectures here on the weekend or something. It has to be something systematic. And the faster they make the decision, down the line, 4, 5, 6 years from now, looking back, they'll be like, wow, man, that was not that bad. And look, here I am. I've gained some decent knowledge. I can actually now give back to the community and contribute to the community.
Yeah.
As opposed to having a bunch of Muslims just wishing they could study Islam and they never really do.
Right. No, a beautiful point, and I completely agree with you that one needs to take advantage of their local resources first and foremost. Now, but you know what? I want to actually address on that same topic. I want to address even a deeper problem which is like the motivation to seek Islamic knowledge, right? And I often think about the 80% of Muslims. Okay, we just come from Jummah or whatnot. How do you get to those people, or even people who are in limbo, but who are like, you know what? What's the benefit of? Why should I even seek Islamic knowledge? Right? Can we have a discussion, just a quick discussion about that? Can you address that?
Yeah, I mean, look, we know the ayat and the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ with regards to the benefits of seeking knowledge. مَنْ سَلَكَ طَرِيقًا يَلْتَمِسُ فِيهِ عِلْمًا سَهَّلَ اللَّهُ لَهُ طَرِيقًا إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ. We've all heard these ahadith, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make a path easy for the seeker of knowledge to Jannah. The problem is that if there's no impact in these ahadith and these ayat, and it's not because there's no impact in them in itself, is that sometimes the people are delivering these are not reaching to the ears and the hearts, even more important than the ears of the people, the community.
Yeah.
So I believe that a lot of the times, like we as du'at and the imams in the community, such as Canada, for example, if they don't know how to connect to the community and how to leave an impact. So there's nothing wrong with the ayat and the hadith. These are divinely revealed. But there's sometimes something wrong with the way they're being given to the general public. And if you cannot impact and influence the people around you, then you're actually, doing a disservice to the people. There's a responsibility. You have that knowledge that Allah has given you, coming and studied somewhere else, I don't know where, and now you're an imam or a da'i or something in a community. But if you stand on that minbar, and I've assisted to so many different khutbahs in Canada and all over the world, and sometimes literally the khatib puts you to sleep, you know what I mean? Like the people who are, and I believe the Jummah khutbah, it's the time where even the worst Muslim will still come because he still feels like I should come for Jummah. It's like cultural, whatever you want to call it. There's still some khair in the heart of that Muslim who comes for Friday prayer, right? But that's the time, bro, when you can catch them. And wallahi, like for example, I live in the UAE. We've had a khutbah program that we started about 8 years ago, and now it's flourishing in more than 10 masajid, giving English khutbahs. But most of the opportunities that I've capitalized on in dawah in the past 8 or 7 years have resulted from me giving Friday khutbahs, right?
Yeah. Because
the people would come after and say, like I really connected. And here is also an issue of culture. For those brothers and sisters who have knowledge, and maybe they're coming from a different culture within Canada, to Canada, and they want to help, that's good. But if they don't understand the Canadian culture, and they don't understand that, like, I'll give you an example. Someone might look like a Pakistani on the outside, but in the inside, he's as Canadian as maple leaf syrup, right?
Yeah.
And if he might have studied somewhere amazing with some shuyukh, but he doesn't have the tools to connect to that person. Sometimes that person is still good and he can help the community in different ways, but he has to sometimes support and maybe even step aside and allow someone who can really connect to these people.
Yeah.
And if we don't do that, it's not going to move, brother, right?
Yeah, Barakallah Fiqh. I actually really, it's funny because I often talk about this topic a lot of the times, because what you're, in one sense, you're kind of giving an analysis of the community that, in order to reach these 80% of Muslims who are not motivated to seek knowledge, it does sometimes lie on the responsibility of that 20% of our own organization, getting ourselves in line, training ourselves. And I mean, that's a whole nother topic in addition to itself. But I completely agree with you, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Leading into our third question, I just want to share a quick story with you, if you don't mind. I live here in Mississauga, Ontario, and there was a Muslim event not too far ago here in Mississauga, and we had a group of multiple Christian missionaries came with loudspeakers and microphones to preach the gospel, quote unquote, to Muslims from the sidewalk. So they could do that legally. The police actually came, but they couldn't remove them because of Canada's freedom of speech laws. And for those of us who are listening, you might have seen them on Dundas Square in downtown Toronto. They have thousands and thousands of views on YouTube where they're a hijabi or Muslim, a new immigrant will just be walking by, and these Christian missionaries will actually start quoting things from the Quran. They'll start quoting hadith, and they'll start attacking Islam. And I do see Muslims trying to make perhaps sincere, but sometimes legitimate attempts to tackle these notions. But what happens is, number one, the microphone is always in the control of the missionary's hand, and number two is that they don't actually have the knowledge sometimes to address these issues. So my discussions with some of the Muslims at this Mississauga event was, I was like, hey, you know what, brothers and sisters, this is a great opportunity to learn to take a Dawah course. And I know you've done some work with ICRAA. It's an organization that we both respect, and they do workshops here. But when they come to do workshops, I actually wish sometimes the numbers would be triple, double, quadruple, because you don't, and there's sometimes empty seats, which is sad to see, because it's like these guys are training us to learn how to answer these issues. So, part of we're kind of discussing all this in one lecture here, but whether it's missionaries, atheists, Islamophobes, where there's a challenge to these issues, there's also an opportunity.
That's right.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. And actually, leading into this, I actually want to talk about one of your projects, which I love and highly respect, which is ICRAA. Can you tell the audience really quickly about ICRAA?
Yeah, mashallah. Well, we started many years ago with the same type of approach, debating and dealing with these missionaries who are loud and so on. But to be honest, after some time, realized that it's not that effective, because if two people are going to start screaming and quoting ayat, and they're quoting Bible or Quran, and word back and so on, it doesn't look good, and it's not productive. So we were taking that approach at one point, and I think more and more. Like today, I was with Brother Hamzat Sources,
Mashallah,
and
mashallah.
he was saying how he doesn't do debates anymore because he just felt that it just wasn't productive, right? I mean, what's the benefit? Yeah, some people like it. It was a lot of, if you look through YouTube videos and a lot of things, sometimes it was just a spectacle.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes you just have to put someone in their place. You know what I mean? And you have to do it sometimes.
You have to go Ahmed. As they say, you have to go Ahmadi on the brother.
Really, because sometimes it's a must. That's why Musa alayhi salam, when he put Fir'aun and the magicians in their place, he did it in the middle of the day in front of everyone,
Yeah.
Because he wanted to show the regular people that these guys who've been barking so loud for so long don't have anything to stand on. So you take that approach, but generally speaking, usually that doesn't really pay off. So you have to be very good to identify when you take that opportunity. Yeah. But it's very, very, it's very rare.
Yeah.
But in general, you need to look for more effective ways. So we discovered that by doing a very, good quality research and providing these articles, we've reached out to many more people. Not just that, a lot of people who might have left Islam or had some confusions kind of read our articles and they came back to Islam because it was substance. Like, we didn't swear at anyone, we didn't fight with anyone, we didn't get angry with anyone, we didn't insult anyone. It was just like, here's the truth, here's the proof, this is where they've gone wrong, 1, 2, 3, 4, here's the reference, it's all professional, it's international standard citation, and be the judge, right? So a lot of people benefited from that. So we've taken that approach. Now, look, once in a while I'll have to, as you said, go do that on some people, right? But you have to be the best judge and exercise the best wisdom as to when and how. Sometimes you just have to walk away, and that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I just say peace out, man. It's not worth it.
Yeah, and
there's like 5-10 new Muslims or Muslims who are weak and they might have weak iman and they've been affected by this person. Sometimes you do have to raise your voice and just put that person in their place with some concrete arguments, so that the people who are watching will be like, oh, you know what, it's okay, I can see that Islam has strength, right?
I want to. No, Afwan, sorry to interrupt. So I want to just actually harmonize what you're saying, and because I agree with you, and I want to just, if I can try to compliment and add to what you're saying, I actually would say there's debates and there's dawah, and they both kind of overlap. They both have their time and place, and so one of the things for me is watching Dr. Zakir Naik, Hafidullah, and Sheikh Ahmed Didat Rahimullah, and I'm a big fan of the Hyde Park Speakers Corner debates that are happening in London, UK as well too. And many people would say, who are in the debate game, they would say debate is not, you're not preaching to the other audience. A lot of the times you're teaching Muslims how to handle these arguments. You're addressing an intellectual issue, and you're training Muslims in an area of knowledge that they might not be strong in. However, to completely agree with your point, we did an open house, a masjid open house here in the GTA, where we invited non-Muslims, we invited politicians, everyone, and there was more of a casual conversation. We had food, we broke bread together, and so to the brothers, I'll say, brothers, go when you're giving dawah to a coworker or even stranger, go and take them out for a coffee. Be soft, be humble, use the GORAP approach, GORAP for those who don't know it. And then, as Ustadh Jibreel is saying, you really want to be humble and really connect to them on a human level. And so I think that debates have they both have their pros, and dawah, obviously, debate is a part of dawah, but from broader level, obviously, you want to connect on a human level.
For sure. But as I said, someone bringing their loudspeakers on the other side of the hall, walkway, it's not going to do anything. You can walk over and be like, "No, what, man? Let's all agree that this is not going to take us anywhere. We're just going to argue. Let's meet at a hall somewhere and have a mediator, and you got 5 minutes, I got 5 minutes, you got 10 minutes, I got 10 minutes. That will take you a farther way, when you have a mediator. But when someone controls the microphone, or you go in these chat rooms and they can block you and mute you, and you're on their turf and stuff like that, it's suicide. You don't want to do that. So,
exactly. And by the way, it's not to interrupt you again, but these guys, they edit the videos like crazy, ridiculously, to only make the Muslims look bad. Inshallah ta'ala, hopefully, we might be challenging them soon in the future. But we'll talk about that. That's another topic. But I mean, I completely agree with what you're saying, Ustadh. This is the last question. I know you have to go shortly here. It's more of a personal question, and I was kind of discussing this with another brother, a friend of mine. So we were like, mashallah, subhanallah, there's a lot of Muslims in Canada, we feel, that want to learn their deen. They need teachers. They need people, asatidh like yourself. And I am in no way trying to rip on you here or anything like that. We love you for the sake of Allah. We know you're, wherever you are in the world, we know you're doing da'wah, mashallah. But why is it that du'at like yourself, whether it's yourself, Dr. Bilal Phillips, Sheikh Walid Hakim, others, Sheikh Yahya Ibrahim, I could mention many more, Ustadh Abdul Shakur Brooks. Why do many of them live abroad, especially when it comes to Canada? I feel it might have something to do with Canada we don't have our stuff in order. We're not organized. Can you comment a little bit on this?
No, actually, most of the people that you mentioned, I've either met with them or I know them some way or the other. To be honest, brother, I don't beat around the bush. It has to do with money, brother. Mm-hmm. If people don't value someone and their work, the person is going to go somewhere else, where someone is going to value his work. Yeah. And I know the problem is we have this misconception that we believe that du'at should be like the poorest people. They should be masakin. They should do everything fi sabilillah. But it is fi sabilillah, and as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, قل إن صلاتي ومحياي ونسكي ومحياي ومماتي لله رب العالمين. Everything from our lives has to be for the sake of Allah. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, but if someone doesn't get invested in, people have studied and have dedicated their life to dawah, and they'll go somewhere where someone's going to respect them and they're going to pay them and help them. And the thing is not that we're after money or anything like that, bro. But the thing is, in the end of the day, it's the 21st century, and these people have to feed their families. Exactly, yeah. They have to have some kind of a life, what I mean? Right. And it's very contradictory that a lot of the people are judging these people. They themselves have a very nice life, but for some reason they expect them to give up. And I say always to the brother, I'm like, brother, why don't you give up some of your salary so that you can sponsor a da'i or something like that? Okay. Because, with all due respect, bro, as you said, it's needed. And for someone to say that, no, let me do my full-time job and I'll do dawah whenever I can, it doesn't really work like that. I'm not saying it's impossible, but not everyone is cut to handle that type of amount of work. So we need du'at who are focused on dawah full time, because the world needs it. You can count on the fingers how many du'at are in the world and teachers.
Yeah.
So if people, the communities, and with all due respect, our communities have money, and I'm not trying to talk about money. It is about money. A lot of people say, no, it's not this, it's not that. It is, man. People have to live. No one's trying to get rich off the dawah, man. And if someone does, then may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide them.
Yeah.
But in the end of the day, people have to live.
Right.
And they have to feel like they are valued and respected. And if they're not, they will pack up and go somewhere where they are.
Right.
And this has happened throughout Islamic history.
Right.
You go and look at, many of the imma before. If they were not respected, they would just pack up and go somewhere and where they'll be respected. And they would travel and they'll try to bring benefit to whichever community will welcome them.
Yeah.
But the worst thing that the human psychology part of the Maslow, hierarchy of needs is that need for acceptance,
Right.
If you don't feel accepted, you don't feel valued, it's zero, man. You're just going to pack up and go. So this is what happens to most of the du'at, actually.
But Barakallah fik, akhi, and I appreciate you being a little more candid with us. And I think the other thing I might have to resort to is the next time you visit Canada, we'll just have to kidnap you and force you to stay here. I'm just joking, of course. No, you know what? I will add to that, because I know some of our audience members, especially my friends, won't. They'll get mad at me if I don't say this, but I have seen du'at, and I will say it's an exception, that are work at a full-time job here, 9 to 5, or they have their own business on the side and they do dawah, but I will say that's not for everyone, and I do see where you're coming from, and I do empathize with what you're saying. Ustadh Jibreel, if you can just leave us, the audience, inshallah, with a few resources, whether it's YouTube channels, debates, books, that they can go start their journey of Islamic knowledge, and we'll end it with that, inshallah ta'ala.
No, really, I believe that right now, for new Muslims specifically, something like New Muslim Academy is very important for them to sign up. The courses are available. They need to move away from haphazard, or what I call drive-through knowledge. You know what I mean?
Okay.
They have to, I keep repeating the word systematic. It has to be systematic, because the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, tarbiyah, was to take someone from point A to point Z.
Yeah.
And a systematic approach, a curriculum, is the only way to do it in the 21st century. So New Muslim Academy is very good. It will take you somewhere. It will give you a basis. For those who are existing that want to further knowledge, I would say, something like Islam Online University, Dr. Bilal Phillips, is again a structured program that will take you to a curriculum, and you will end up somewhere, as opposed to just, let me check this video here,
right,
let me check this lecture there, let me do this. No. Michigan University in North America, and it's very, very good. So these kind of programs are something that could help someone. I do recommend a very, very good book for those who are involved and want to, do dawah. It's called The First and Final Commandment by Dr. Lawrence Brown. Very, very strong book that they should read. Okay, so these kind of resources I do recommend for those who are more advanced into polemics and responding to missionaries. ICRAA.org is we really love the work that we've done. I think it's really important.
Alhamdulillah, it's a blessing. Yeah.
So, but again, systematic. Keep it systematic. Whatever you do, try to make sure that you have a plan, whether it's 4 years, 6 years, 7 years, but you will reach somewhere. And remember that it's not just about seeking knowledge, it's about what you will do with that knowledge. So, how long are Dr. Bilal Phillips and other du'at and, going to be around? Everyone's going to die, right?
Yeah.
So people need to understand the continuity of this, and that's why the ulama of old, they used to take students and they used to invest in students. Imam Abu Hanifa, Abu Yusuf, and others, students of knowledge. So people invested in students of knowledge so they can continue the dawah work, and this continuity is very, very important.
Barakallah.
So systematic.
Subhanallah. So brothers and sisters, remember that systematic knowledge. I want to thank Ustadh Jibreel for his time, and we hope, inshallah ta'ala, to have another discussion with him, hopefully in person. Barakallah fiqh wa jazakallah khair, Ustadh Jibreel. May Allah bless you and your family and your dawah work. And inshallah ta'ala, we'll talk to you all soon.